Hello, everyone. You are listening to the MSPoweruser Podcast. This is the podcast for the Microsoft enthusiast and power user. We discuss the latest news from MSPoweruser.com about Microsoft, Windows, and more. My name is Vernon E.L. Smith, and I'm joined as usual by Andy Bennett. Andy, what's up, man?
Not too much. This really hasn't been my week, but there's still been some positive stuff heading my way. So, it's like a case where for every downside, there's something equally good pushing up against it.
For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction.
Yeah, it's a good way to look at it.
Let's go with that, yeah.
How's your week been going?
It's been pretty crazy, just a lot of house stuff, and I will continue to have a lot of house stuff the next couple months. I'm not going to go into detail, but it has been stressful, but actually we're getting to a point where kind of over a hump in which I will have a little bit more time, hopefully, for a few things, and then it'll ramp up again here soon anyway. You know how that goes.
Yeah. Roller coaster of stress and emotions.
Yeah.
Also known as life.
Exactly. How has your summer been? I mean, I'm having an awesome summer when it comes to
this has
weather.
Been pretty nice aside from the weather, which we had it 97 here today.
Mm-hmm.
Humidity was so high, it was 105.
Ugh.
And as soon as you step outside, the air felt like it was so thick you could just chew on it.
Mm-hmm.
This summer has been really, really hot, but again, we go back to equal reaction because a year or two ago it was so incredibly cold you thought it was fall.
Well, it's been a great summer here. It has been warm, but of course we're in a little bit northern latitude, and so
yeah,
it's been fine. Occasionally we hit 90, 95, but mostly not much. Don't often hit 90. Not too often.
I've been a little wallflower living off air conditioning. Not wallflower. Houseplant, not houseplant. I forget.
That's okay. That works.
Whatever.
Yeah, we at work I was them inside, and that's wonderful. But I really do miss the sun, so I come out. I enjoy my days off in the sun when I can. Anyway, one thing we are super proud of, and I'm being somewhat facetious here, believe it or not, folks, we are somehow better than 50% of podcasts. Now, obviously, that's speculative. Obviously, that's
lower 50%.
And really better only means that we lasted this long. And of course, with substantial help and encouragement from some of the top people at MSPoweruser. But Andy and
only
I have
the strong survive this long.
That's right. So this is episode 8, which is I'm happy with. It's good. It's just
like we mentioned last week, we were technically over 8 counting the pilot, but for full-length episodes, you could combine the pilot and the episode 001, and now we're at this wonderful point where it's full 8th episode.
Yeah. So obviously we're not, I don't think we're better than many podcasts at all, but we're having a good time with this. Andy, you're doing a phenomenal job for this being, your first podcast. Nice work.
Well, thanks. So, and I can't thank you enough.
Well, it's just fun. Yeah.
Yeah. We've been getting through quite a few. Well, actually, I've been getting through quite a few milestones at least. We've got the podcast hitting this point, and then I've had a personal project hit its full 4th iteration, although I've had a bunch of updates for it in between that. So it's fun, really, to just have all this stuff keep going along and getting better as it goes.
Is that anything you'd like to plug on the show, or what is it?
I don't know, really.
Not needed, I guess.
I doubt the majority of our listeners are Steam users, but if so, I make a Steam skin called Plexed, which just hit version 4.0, which it's been in the works for 2 years, and I'm pretty satisfied with it.
Nice. Well, where could they? I guess they can just follow you on Twitter if they want to.
Well, if they follow me on Twitter, they can just look in my Twitter bio. I've got a link to it right there.
Nice, very good. So, listeners, stay. If this is your first time listening, make sure you listen to the very end of the show when we share our Twitter handles. Anyway, enough of the intro, I believe. Top news, definitely Windows 10, Windows Insider stuff. I mean, that's what everyone's all about lately. Obviously, there was the big release that that was pushed out, and then we kind of, call it like the vacation or the lull after that. There's still plenty of stuff going on. So
Yep, and just like after the last release, the November update, the first Insider build after that is mostly changes to one core. And for those who don't know what one core is, it was described in today's post as the heart of Windows, and that's pretty much it. It's all under the hood changes that are getting prepped for big things down the line. But that isn't all. And by that isn't all, I mean like there's one other change in this build, which is 14901. And it adds tutorial notifications and File Explorer. Hooray.
Well, that's something. That's that's interesting. It is a feature. So to back up just a moment.
Oh, okay, go on.
Well, like we've focused so much on this Redstone build, which we kind of almost forgot the name of, which changed publicly to the anniversary update. So RS1 or Redstone was what just released to the public, and of course Redstone 2 is the next version of that. Most people know that, but as a reminder, we expect it to come out at the beginning of 2017, and we expect one more Windows, a large, what do we call it, a feature update, feature pack, basically, to be released
Service pack 3.
Yeah. But we expect RS2 to be released in beginning of 2017, and we don't know what the next one will be called. Let's just call it RS3.
Actually, judging by the format, the original Windows 10 release and the November release, that was TH1, TH2, Threshold, which is a Halo reference, Redstone's a Minecraft reference, so I'm waiting for the inevitable next release to have a reference to either Gears of War or maybe Forza. I think I've said it before, but I still don't know the correct way to say that, as I've heard it both ways. But
well, I'm fine with Minesweeper because that's about the game. That's the game I've played. Microsoft.
We'll go with your prediction.
Minesweeper 1 will be the fall of.
That sounds like some sort of ship that belongs in like Star Trek or something.
A very early version of Star Trek.
Yeah.
Minesweeper 1. Unless it is not Minesweeper, it's Mindsweeper.
That works.
Okay. All right. Enough of that. RS2.
Let's move on to bugs.
Yeah, go
those
for
are
it.
fun.
What do you got?
Well, just Adobe Reader crashes and support for kernel debugging over 1394 being removed, which I am not the person to talk to about kernel debugging. I don't know if you are either.
Me neither, no.
But Adobe Reader crashes, yeah. There's still people who use Adobe Reader, I guess. Enough for people to notice that. I kind of thought it was something that went the way of AOL, Netscape, two things we talked about before the podcast, although there's still people paying AOL for dial-up, like my grandmother.
Wow.
The poor deluded woman.
Well, okay. Do you have any idea how much she's paying for it?
Oh, I'm not sure. And if you're listening to this, Grandma, I'm kidding. Love you. Anyways, though, yeah.
But I mean, like, if you could get a decent connection, let's just say.
It isn't a decent connection, seeing how she kept complaining about how she couldn't even load images and emails. So.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Oofta. I remember the days of I said oofta. That's right. I remember the days of clicking on a page, watching it load, and like the lines at a time, just a few inches of an image loading, and the next few inches, and you're sitting there like watching it. Obviously, I'm a bit older than you, Andy, and this is.
There's still some people who experience that though. They're called Comcast users.
Oh, zing! Nice. That's a slam up this way. So we have. What are we even on here? Let's see.
Well,
we're on Edge.
We were on the issues with RS2. We kind of got sidetracked a little there.
Well, we like Edge. We're liking it more and more. it has extensions. It's getting better, yada, yada, all that. Some prominent names, let's say Brad Sams, for example, it has said that he's using Edge full time. Wow, that's actually a pretty big step. It's not perfect, though, and there's bugs in there, and Microsoft came up with a new way to submit those bugs, which I think is pretty interesting.
Yeah, and this one is a hashtag on Twitter, which, for anyone who knows Jonathan Sampson, he's had an account dedicated to just getting bug reports sent in to that. I think it's Sampson MSFT, but though his normal account's just Jonathan Sampson. I'm not 100% sure on the handles, though. Like, I don't really memorize most Twitter handles, but
Yeah.
he's been taking in bug reports and whatnot over there, and he's even gone to the point of doing live streams where people can send in bug reports live, and he'll go in and try to fix them. He's a really active listener when it comes to this type of stuff, and it seems that sending in stuff through Twitter is working. Otherwise, we wouldn't end up with this. Mm-hmm. And to do this, it's a really simple thing. You just simply tweet out what your bug is, have the hashtag EdgeBug, and provide a link to a page or steps where you can reproduce that issue.
Great.
Yeah.
So I guess that's interesting. I mean, that is definitely interesting, and it's one more way to share that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, really, how Twitter's shares keep tanking as more and more creative ways for developers to track their issues with software or experience with consumers through that.
Mm-hmm. When you said Twitter shares, I think of like how the value of Twitter, intrinsic and monetary, and
that was exactly what I was talking about.
Okay. And it just seems like Twitter's the only one left that is still not too, like, marketed. I mean, or not marketed, but, like, too all about money. Obviously, they're still losing money, but
they're trying to find a niche, I guess, and can't really find it. But I
think they've found a niche. They just haven't found a way to make money at it, like
maybe.
Good money. And that's
Anyways,
too bad.
though, we're not the Twitter Power User Podcast. We're the Microsoft Power User Podcast. So
there you go. Pulling me back on track. Jeez, yeah. Go for it. You got this one.
All right. So earlier, I believe it was earlier this year, Microsoft announced that they would have limited support for Windows 7 and Windows 8.1 on Intel Skylake devices. And that's been extended. The support was originally supposed to end July 17th next year, and it's been extended until the end of the lifetime, extended support for both Windows 7 and 8.1. Now, they say that this change is designed to help our customers purchase modern hardware with confidence while continuing to manage their migrations to Windows 10. There are now over 350 million devices on Windows 10, and more than 135 billion hours of use since the launch, with enterprise customers deploying Windows 10 to devices every single day. We recommend that customers upgrade these 6th-gen Intel Core systems on Windows 7 and Windows 8.1 as soon as possible, so they can receive full support along with the great enhancements that come from running modern hardware with a modern software. And, that enterprise does their own thing, but it's nice to see that Microsoft is still looking out for it and making sure that they're going to keep support up. I mean, there's really, again, this is one of those things where there's no downside. Microsoft supports software and hardware for longer. Enterprises have a little more time to make a move. By the time support ends, they'll likely have upgraded anyways. Not really any downside.
Mm-hmm. And it's so often we just see Microsoft giving an excuse for you to upgrade the software. So this is kind of refreshing to see a different side of that.
Yeah, though enterprise customers and consumers are different groups.
Mm-hmm.
And now, moving on to something with just downsides, there's some stuff you can talk about.
Well, yeah, I obviously use Microsoft stuff for pretty much everything. I'm not as heavy of a user as quite a few, even of the listeners, and I'm just more of a consumer. But one thing I don't use much of is Google, and there's plenty of reasons for that. And some of it is just kind of by default. I like the Microsoft thing, the Microsoft ecosystem. But Google has also treated me rather poorly as a Windows Phone and a Microsoft user. Sometimes especially Windows Phone and Windows 10 mobile folks have been treated like second-class citizens by Google. This has been for quite some time. At one point, Google did make a YouTube app for Windows Phone. It was basically a web wrapper and a horrible one at that. And as the story goes, and this is somewhat, I'll just call it lore, okay? That it was Microsoft did make a good YouTube app. It was great. It actually skipped ads, which was splendid.
I have a feeling that was intended as just a gigantic middle finger to Google for not making their own.
I would imagine so, yes. And then Google, I wouldn't say promptly, but I would say within a week, Google, we upgraded our backend and now this doesn't work. And Microsoft was never able to get the update or, basically make it work again. So I would imagine it was either like a threat of suing. I was going to say threat of sewage, and that obviously isn't the right term, but I think it'd be interesting.
Sewage. There's times where there isn't much difference, especially when it comes to fights between Microsoft and Google.
Yeah. Well, a lawsuit. Okay, there was flinging of sewage, and there was basically, for whatever reason, Microsoft did not continue that app, and it was officially broken. This was quite some time ago, a couple years, I don't know. And so there's obviously good third-party YouTube apps out there, but there's still nothing from Google, from YouTube.
However, they did release a Google app for the Windows 10 desktop that was a bit more than just a web wrapper, as it was an actually completely custom-built app that did have some nice functions while simultaneously being totally useless.
Well, that would make much more sense because Windows 10 is on, obviously, a pile of devices, and Google knows that they are obviously using, they have Chrome on many of those devices. That's understandable. We get that. You play a lot of YouTube on the desktop or laptop. We understand that. But on Windows Mobile, it's a small enough market share that they can pretty much just flip the middle finger at Windows and Microsoft regarding the Windows Phone and Windows Mobile users. And that sucks. I've been going through that. Not that I'm a big Google user, like I said, but in general,
sometimes you got to use it just out of necessity.
Yeah, YouTube. I mean, like YouTube's a thing. There's obviously no Google Hangouts app for Windows Phone, where naturally there is Skype, which is like Microsoft's version of that. That of course is available on Android. Well, the latest episode in this drama basically is that Windows Phone users were unable to log into their Google account, add a Gmail account into the Outlook Mobile, both on Windows Phone and Windows 10 Mobile. This was a problem, of course. It was broke for a few weeks before it was really publicized broadly, and I think part of that was because the number of Windows Phone users are so small anyway. We understand that, but also because those people using Windows Phone still are probably pretty diehard. They're probably all in with Microsoft, and if they're not, they're probably not too worried about using Google anyway. Anyway, yeah, there's not a lot of new phones, people logging in for the first time, Google, Gmail. Point being, it was a problem. It kind of ticked off a few people. Yeah.
And I do think they're vocal minorities. Yeah. Because while Windows Phone users might be a small enough group, you get that story to the right websites or the right communities, you can blow that up.
Yes.
And that'll definitely definitely have much more of an effect. It's like just taking every single Windows Phone user out there and multiplying them, because you'll have people who don't even have Windows Phones who think this is shady.
Mm-hmm. And you'll have people that do not necessarily use a Gmail account on Windows Phone, or maybe it already works. I mean, my Gmail works in my Windows Phone. I haven't had to add it since this broke, but I obviously made a big deal about this, and this is a problem. So they made a few people made a big enough deal about it. Google did a relatively good PR based. Seemed like a heartfelt apology. It wasn't intentional. Let's see. It says, "Sorry for this problem, everyone. This was not intentional and has now been fixed. If you are still having trouble adding your Google account, please let me know." So I think it's kind of interesting that they even said this was not intentional.
I don't think it's very interesting, although it's nice to have more than just silence. I think there's two potential ways we can go here. One, it was a genuine issue. They just didn't have any Windows phones to test on. I mean, can you really blame them? Seeing, again, market share is everything to some developers, and especially to Google. Or we have option 2, where they had a way of knowing it would happen. They intentionally made it so it would happen. They hoped no one would notice because the market share was low. And they would hope that this would continue to annoy business customers and whatnot, now that Microsoft's focus with Windows 10 Mobile is the enterprise.
I'll say I'm a fan of Microsoft, at least in some ways. Yeah, as a fan, I'll say, yeah, it was the latter. The number 2, Google's just messing with Windows Phone users. But, anything, obviously they update their back end often and how all that works, and maybe it wasn't intentional. Yeah. We'll see. I mean, we probably won't see.
What's interesting, though, is that, some have mentioned maybe it's the Edge user agent string changing, but the user agent string was the same for a while. This is just something that happened without anything really changing before it on Microsoft's end. So it could be a change on Google's end if they use like a user agent whitelist, which is possible. Would be stupid if they did, but big tech companies aren't free of stupidity.
Yeah. Well, either way, go to MSPoweruser.com and find the Google denies intentionally blocking Windows Phone users article. And there, in the comment section, there is plenty of revival in the browser debate. So if you have a hat to throw in the ring on that, you can definitely do so there.
Netscape Navigator.
So we talked about you mentioned this at the beginning of the show. When was Netscape? I wonder if anyone uses this, but when was it updated last? You looked this up?
2008. AOL bought them. They made a fork of Firefox and named it Netscape. Wow. Actually, no, I think it actually ran off IE's engine, which is kind of ironic, seeing how Netscape was the first competitor to IE that really blew up.
They probably gave him IE5. Well, quite literally, that probably was what it was.
Well,
that probably was the version
not IE5.
then.
2008, it would be IE7, because that's right before Windows 7, which shipped with IE8.
No joke. My work laptop about a year and a half ago was running IE5. I had to petition my IT person to get me updated. Well, at that time it was IE11. I'm still on IE11.
There's a dollar store near me that still runs either Windows 95 or an old version of Windows NT.
On what type of device?
Oh, there's monitors near the cashiers, so I'm assuming they're using some sort of banking software for Windows 9X.
Yikes. So banking,
I don't use my card there.
I was gonna say you use cash there, right? Wow. So needless to say, they don't.
Store. Not like I'm not gonna have the change to get anything there, anyways.
So they, needless to say, they probably don't support mobile payments. Huh?
Man, I'm in a small town. If you find anyone that does support mobile payments, it's like finding a 4-leaf clover.
Wow. Well, anyway, go to the comment section of this article if you want to get in a heated debate about browser wars. Anyway, and of course, Google versus Microsoft and all that.
Fun times.
Yeah. So one reason, like you alluded to, that maybe Google is doing this is kind of a preemptive strike back at what we hope is a resurgence in the business side for Windows 10 Mobile Enterprise. And so one thing that is definitely going to one piece to that puzzle would be this HP Elite X3. Obviously, we've heard a lot about this thing. It's pretty cool, and it keeps it's becoming more and more compelling to me as a device. I told my wife I was not going to get another phone. I'm good, and even the price tag on this is, more than I was expecting to spend. I don't necessarily like the size of it. It's bigger than I need, but kind of got me salivating here, and I would love to get this phone. So, by the way, HP, send me one. That'd be wonderful. So there is a new promo video of this phone. We have obviously an article on it on the site, and it's pretty good. I can't really poke fun at it much. One line they had in there was, "And it's Windows, so I know how to do everything," and that's a very, very good point. But I don't know if that many people. I mean,
you're not going to have the same desktop file explorer experience on Windows 10 Mobile, so I don't think you already know how to do everything. But start menu management's pretty much there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's getting there. I would say that when Windows 7 or Windows Phone 7 series came out, if someone had said, "It's Windows, so I know how to run it," no, because nobody knew the tile thing. But of course, that was almost 6 years ago now, and
I can't believe 2010 was 6 years ago.
Right? It's almost 6 years since Windows 7, what the heck was it called? Windows Phone 7 series was released. But holy cow, I feel like I'm getting old now. My stack of phones is confirming it here. But we have, what was I saying? This phone is going to turn some heads. If anything, it's going to set the bar and for what Microsoft needs to come out with if and when they come out with this Surface phone. I'm excited for whatever happens with that. Panos Panay is, we believe, leading this team that's going to be building this quote-unquote Surface phone. That's going to be awesome. If it isn't awesome, well, it is what it is. Whatever. I'm looking forward to this, to the next version of this, and who knows? Maybe I'll find a way to get this Elite X3, but I really don't have much of a need for it anyway.
Yeah, and so, about more Windows 10 mobile phones, I didn't originally include this in the show notes. As you can see, I've got a little improv section there, but the Nuance Neo, we had a review of it go up on the site today, and this is both in text format and video format. Tom, also known as Byte Review, does a great job with these video reviews. It's incredibly high quality content and would highly suggest watching it. And what he says in the review, of the phone is, actually, for those who aren't familiar, the Nuance Neo is a Windows phone intended for the Japanese market. There's a slim to none chance it'll get a Western release. That is, it's inside, it's an average phone. It's got a big battery, but the rest of the specs are fairly average. However, where it does shine is the outside of the phone, as the phone's case is not only its back, it's split into two halves, and you can mix and match colors and parts for these two halves, giving you a not completely unique, there's going to be at least one person out there with the same combo, but more personalized a more personalized device.
And that's exactly what Microsoft or Nokia had gone for to begin with. Even HTC, back when they came out with the HTC 8X and the 8C, 8X and 8C, different colors of the phone, super interesting design of the device, really actually pretty groundbreaking for HTC at the time, and I think that kind of kickstarted what they ended up doing with the HTC One X, and then the HTC One, and the HTC One M8 and M9 or whatever. And so it's really nice to see a little bit more of personality in these phones again. And everyone using the Lumia 950 knows it's pretty much no personality without that Mozo case. If that's
and Mozo, didn't they say they were gonna stop producing those cases? I remember
Yeah, they did, and I guess that's understandable, especially based off of the price of the 950 dropping recently. And so with the price dropping, we, as an optimist here, we can expect to see another Windows 10 mobile device coming out from Microsoft in the next, well, I'll just be broad. Let's say this fall. We'll see if that actually happens.
Yeah. And, back to the nuance.
I think
It would be funny
they
if
say
it was nuance, but
yeah. I think the pronunciation is nuance, as in the word nuance. Yeah.
And one of the things Tom pointed out in the review that I didn't know about, as previously I just knew, oh, it's a phone with completely customizable case. That's cool. And that is cool, but it's got another case design where on the outside, it looks just like a wallet. And you can fold this case around to turn it into a kickstand, not unlike a design for the Surface Pro. Which, that's a really nice design, and I'd kind of like to see Microsoft themselves pick up on that with the ever-fabled, ever-rumored Surface phone, should it happen.
Mm-hmm. That would be great. Yes. That's about it for Windows mobile stuff. We've actually covered a little bit more than normal, but I do just want to share that there's a pretty cool post in here basically saying that, where did it go now?
It's
lost
the post
it.
By Nick Weeg. I hope I'm saying your last name right, Nick?
Yes, that's exactly what I was talking about, and I went, really? Where did it go? I don't internet well. But it's Nick Weeg, and it's basically, I don't even have the name of the post anymore. Do you have it up there?
Have faith. Windows Phone fans have faith.
Yeah, there we go.
It's something along those lines. It's one of the featured posts on the site right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have faith, Windows Phone fans.
There we go.
And
so
it's a very optimistic look at the future of Windows Phone.
Yeah, admittedly optimistic, but if you are a Windows Phone fan, read up on it, and it's kind of fun to reignite a little spark, hopefully. And yeah, on to some stuff that I know less about, which
this is where the stuff that gets fun for me comes in.
Exactly. Yeah, you don't really care about Windows Phone, and I get that.
Oh, no. I actually, it's fun to talk about Windows Phone, even if I don't really. I'm not a big Windows Phone aficionado like you are, but it's a fun thing to talk about as it's a very unique platform with how it's positioned.
For sure. But one thing that has grown massively in the last, let's just say 10 years, but even 5 years, is Xbox. And we love how that has grown. It used to be a big money loser, for Microsoft. And of course, it's so strong right now. So I guess I jumped ahead to the second one here.
Hey, we can do that.
Look at that. Xbox One was the number one selling console in July. For so long now, for months and months, all I've been hearing is that, well, PlayStation's whooping them, but hey, Xbox has something unique, or Xbox is a niche console. Xbox is.
I don't think I'd say Xbox is a niche console, really. But
yeah, but
to each their own.
Yeah, I've just heard different, basically, excuses for it not selling that well, and apparently it has jumped back up. Now, maybe it's just for 1 month, who knows, whatever. But oddly enough, this is before the Xbox One S came out, and so most people
actually not totally odd, really, because this is likely because of the deep discounts it's been getting ahead of the Xbox One S release. Like it dropped down to like $250 with some models. That's a good point. That's enough to get some people to either buy it for the first time or maybe buy another if they wanted to go back or sold a previous one.
That's a good point. I had not considered that, but this is great that it is. It's up on top again, at least for 1 month,
yeah.
And
if we're going to look at this with glass half full, it's great. If we look at it with glass half empty, it was the top seller in April 2015.
Yeah.
And there's a variety of reasons as to why I think the PlayStation is dominating, and it's a bit more than just brand name power, although that's a good deal of what plays into it. The console wars are the successor to the browser wars, and they're a little more lame, I gotta say, as you go from fights over the performance of Netscape and Firefox and Internet Explorer crying in a corner to...
Don't forget Opera and Brave.
Oh, yeah, the browser that just got bought out by the Chinese, and I have to stop using because I'm worried about privacy on it. Yay. Yeah. I did like Opera, though, but anyways, console wars are a bit more boring as you just mostly have very, very, very immature people throwing crap at each other. So that's a little lame compared to its predecessor, but the PlayStation's been doing well with its big headlining franchises, I think. Like Uncharted is being critically acclaimed. You've got all the Uncharted games with the Uncharted collection and Uncharted 4. You've got big developers like Naughty Dog doing that, and The Last of Us. Like, Sony's got the side where everything they touch becomes the front page of a magazine. They have a very good marketing department. And Microsoft does have some good guys in their marketing department too, but you don't really see this constant hype every month like you do with Sony. With Sony, you had Uncharted. You've got No Man's Sky now, also known as No Man's Game, because no one can find a game in there, but they've got The Last of Us, all of these gigantic cinematic franchises which pull in reviewers. Whereas the Xbox does have theirs too, just not as many. If you don't have a release every month, it's kind of hard to keep up the hype like Sony does.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, enough about that.
I think one thing that Microsoft is doing so well is this insider program, just broadly insider program. And
absolutely.
And of course,
not just that, but I think the kind of convergence of Windows 10 across all these devices. You have an insider program on almost every device. You're not going to find one on a HoloLens yet, I think, although one could argue that all of HoloLens is just an insider program.
Yeah, basically.
As it's just going out to developers right now.
Well, it is actually available to consumers at this point. I think you can only buy 5 at a time. Darn. So if you have an extra
I think it's more aimed at still just developers, just smaller developers who aren't on their list.
Correct. Yeah. And I would say enterprise. I think we're getting to the point... I saw one by, I think, Boeing. And Boeing probably, if they asked to be on the list, they probably made it in. But Boeing's, they must have if they were demoing this. But a big name like that, if they wanted to be part of it, I'm sure they could. And they were demoing something really amazing for, like, fighting fires or something like that. It was very, very cool. And these are the things, basically Microsoft is making the content, or, the technology, getting it out there, and saying, here, developers, do something with it. And that's what's happening. And man, HoloLens is just so exciting to think of, that we are now shaping the future. We're guiding what's going to happen, what's going to be commonplace 5, 10, 15 years down the road. We're breaking those molds right now, and that's really cool.
Yeah, it's exciting to see what's happening, especially with virtual reality and augmented reality, because if this first generation's so neat, what are we going to see in 2 to 3 generations?
I mean, the HoloLens, as far as the physically, the device, hasn't changed much. It looks about the same. They did go from wired to wireless. Okay, we knew that was actually a big step. But, we're almost to the point where we're ready for another version, in a way. They've already trimmed down on a lot of things. And even just with...
Might go with the way Oculus did and have like a DK2, developer kit too.
I wasn't aware of that, I guess, but...
Yeah, they had multiple revisions of developer kits shipped out to people throughout the system's development, and it's a neat idea to, keep sending out revisions to people every couple of months.
So what if, like, with the Xbox Scorpio, which is still rumored, if that thing can powers, either wirelessly or wired would be fine, powers a consumer version of the HoloLens. Is that way outside of reality? What do you think about that, Andy?
I think for Xbox, they're going to aim more with virtual reality as opposed to augmented. Augmented, I think, would be totally standalone, its own. Anything regarded to Xbox would be about having a virtual reality experience where you can see through the eyes of the character in the game you're playing, which is what Sony is aiming for with their PlayStation VR stuff that they showed off heavily at E3. And I think Microsoft's goal with Scorpio, one of the goals at least, is to get a virtual reality headset working on the system so they can fight fire with fire.
Mm-hmm. I get that, but already VR has to rely in many ways on a Windows PC, anyway. And so why, I don't know, it's a little bit, I guess it's just interesting. I don't have a good enough comment on that, but that is, the HTC Vive or Vive, no one knows how to pronounce that apparently, is, well, at least not anyone I know.
It's Vive.
Okay. It is basically, well, what am I saying? I mean, you need a good Windows 10 PC to run it. Same thing with Oculus Rift. You need a high-end spec'd out Windows machine
for any
to do
virtual reality on your PC, you need a high-end device.
So, anyway, all right. We had not really
back to the convergence of Windows on platforms. One of the big things about that convergence, like we were saying, is the Insider program, and Xbox has had its own Insider program for a while now. There's been various iterations of it, like the new Xbox 360 experience back in the day. Now the Xbox Preview program on the Xbox One, which fired up around the time that Windows 10 began to come to the console. It's got another build out, which not too surprising, as these ones have been coming out fairly rapidly. They don't really seem to have to wait on a schedule like the desktop or mobile teams where they have to worry about one core and whatnot. The Xbox team gets some builds out with some fixes in it, fixes that up, publishes, and this one is just fixes. This one improves stability in games, which I haven't seen any issues with game stability, but I guess, someone has. And it fixes the localization of UWP app titles, like movies and TV, movies and film, depending on your region. And it's not a major update, but fixes are always nice. I just hope that they get around to fixing the things that I have issues with someday.
Well, I would imagine so, especially if it's kind of at the forefront with, what you notice right away. I think, especially on the new device that they just put out, it makes sense to get that stuff fixed right away. Maybe I'm just using too much logic here, but
yeah, judging by the fact that I think I've gone far too long waiting for things to be fixed over the years, only to see that 3 years later it's still broken, despite the fact I noticed it right away and no one else did.
Well, soon, Andy, soon.
Alas, we can't pronounce a trademark symbol. It doesn't have the same effect if you just say soon trademark.
Exactly.
Or soon TM. It's not the same.
Yeah. All right. Well, one thing that I think is pretty interesting, even though I don't game, is that there's now a Twitch competitor. There were Twitch competitors.
Well,
okay?
yeah. This one has been around for a while. It's just now that Microsoft bought them, and the gigantic acquisition train as they seek to cover the entire Earth with their money.
Yeah. So that's something that I guess it's great. It is great, but it's almost a shame to see these small little companies with potential get bought up by just big companies as they
not exactly. As in this case, small company with potential getting bought out by big company. It's a coin toss. We either go the Nokia route, or we go they're going to start integrating their stuff into everything, and everything's going to improve because of it. Not everything, but
I do believe the latter in this case, because it is a huge area of growth, and there's already some competitors, obviously, with Twitch, which was Amazon's offering, but also Google's offering, which is just Google Stream or Google Game or something.
YouTube Gaming is Google's offering.
I spent a lot of time on there,
bought
obviously.
Twitch last year, and now Microsoft bought Beam, which the thing that sets Beam apart from Twitch or YouTube is that everything's interactive, and there's incredibly low latency. In fact, when I checked out the site earlier, there was a meter saying how much latency and delay there is between you and the streamer, which it's designed so that you can influence the games. You can send in a little message to the streamer that gives them a challenge, or you can control certain parts of the game. Like, I think this was, I'm not part of Beam, so I don't know if this is true or not, but I think this was kind of influenced by the Twitch Plays Pokemon phenomenon a couple years back, where users could input chat commands and control the game of Pokemon, and they somehow won that, but that was one of the things featured right on the homepage, where you could use your keyboard to influence the stream. It wasn't just chat commands, it's built right into the site. You can influence it right from the comfort of your own keyboard without even having to go to a chat room. It's interesting, as their entire goal is interactive live streaming with incredibly low delay.
Well, so much of these streaming services are focused on PC gaming, or let's just call it desktop gaming. So
well, I mean, that's kind of that's the focus of almost all of them. Although console gaming streaming is still possible.
And that's what I'm asking, is that how, what are you losing by doing this via console? I mean, like, what, the equipment not high spec enough, or like why is it focused on PC gaming, not console gaming?
I'd say mostly ease, as it's much harder to build proper streaming into consoles, either because of hardware or this or that. Most people just seem to use capture cards, although I do think there is some integrated streaming on the Xbox One, and I would highly expect Beam to get some integration there.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, use that service, pull it in, and make it go.
Yeah, I'm curious to see if Microsoft makes this as big as Skype is.
Well, that's the thing I would love to see, is that not only is this great for streaming, game streaming, I understand that, but to be able to make this like Google Hangouts, and only the good parts of Google Hangouts.
Well, they have Skype for that.
Well, they do. But what I mean is that this streaming service can be capture. You capture the video, obviously. Skype does not have that feature built in. Even if they use just part of this backend for Beam, and they added it to Skype or like whatever, even like a plugin or something as rudimentary as that, to make it easier for people to record audio and video and share it. And they wouldn't even have to share it to YouTube. They could share it
What's worth noting here?
Video.
To interject, is that a couple months ago I actually put up a little exclusive about Microsoft Huddle. And while Huddle is now shut down, those keen-eyed employees pulled the plug right after I spread the word. The goal of it was kind of vague, as I couldn't access too much information about it, as I'm not a Microsoft employee, but it was described as a video social network. And looking around stuff, you could see things like it might be somewhat like Skype, might be something like Hangouts. It could go a couple of directions, but if, Microsoft wanted to get their cards all in place and have a YouTube/Twitch competitor and also a Hangouts competitor, they've got Beam for streaming, Skype for video chatting, and this seemed to be for video sharing. And I don't even know if the project is still being worked on, as, sites down. I mean, of course, it would probably keep running until the end of time, but
well, I would imagine, like anything, sure. Microsoft, if they were wise, and they usually are, would take the good parts of that, obviously, or this, the best people from that, and move them into something that they can build on. And even if it's something like, if they had to start from scratch on that, or even reinvent it, kind of, it would take a while. So we can, I can't expect it to happen.
My point really is just that, they've had people internally working on something like this. I don't know the details of the project, because for all I know, it could just be one team wanted to do that, but it's still a thing that happened.
Well, personally, as a podcaster, we use Blab. Blab is good, but it is not perfect, and I would love to use exclusively use Microsoft service as Beam Business or Beam Video or like whatever you want to call it.
Oh man, that's coming soon, and you know it.
That would be really cool as a podcasting or basically like Blab would be great. And
when's the Microsoft Blab buyout happening?
To be honest, I just don't see that being their style. I don't know why I get that feeling. Maybe because I'm so deep into I'm not deep into Blab, but I'll admit, or I guess I'm kind of proud that I was an early adopter on Blab and really used it in the very Wii beta times. Whatever Wii beta. Wow.
Welcome to Nintendo.
Yeah. But I just don't see Blab necessarily be Microsoft style. But then again, was Sunrise Microsoft style? People didn't really think that to begin with, but it really does make sense once.
Does Sunrise still even exist, or do they integrate that into something?
See, oddly enough, that does still exist separately. Where what was that email client now that they bought? And I totally spaced it out. But basically,
Acompli,
yeah. Correct. Acompli was basically those features were just slapped right into iOS or Outlook for iOS and Android too, I think. And some of those features are still not in Outlook for Windows 10 Mobile, which is discouraging. But I really, really do like how solid Windows 10 Mobile Outlook on Windows 10 Mobile is. Wow, we always pivot this back to Windows 10 Mobile. Sorry, guys. Sorry, everyone.
Hey.
All right.
Seeing how our audience is Windows 10 Mobile users.
At least a few of them, we hope.
Yeah,
we know. So, all right. So, what else is going on with this next one?
All right, this next one's a fun one. A console modder has created something called the Xbook One S, and it's essentially a laptopified Xbox One S. You have the internals of an Xbox One S in a kind of laptop-y format. It's still way too fat to really have maximum lappability, which, as we all know, is still the rage. But it's got its own built-in screen, which is only 720p. And here's the fun part, the price. It'll run you over 1.5 thousand American dollars. Very affordable, really.
Well, there's plenty of people that will spend that much on a gaming console, but this is not a gaming console.
There's not many people that will spend, all that on a gaming console. This is more of a novelty, although it reminds me of official extensions for consoles that used to happen. Some of them were third-party, but I do know that the original PlayStation had, and the Nintendo GameCube had official screens you could buy that would latch onto the back, turn them into portable consoles where you can lug it around to like a hotel or something, and you don't need a TV. And that's sort of what this is, except it's modifying the entire console. It's building everything up from scratch. You're not just slapping a screen that you can take off at any time, but this isn't the first console this guy's modded like this either. He does this fairly regularly, I guess, as regularly as consoles come out, as he did this with the regular Xbox One, and I'm pretty sure he did that with the PS3 and Xbox 360 as well. I remember seeing this guy's work years ago. Excuse me.
Well, I think it's interesting that he already has this thing out for the One S. Now, is he such a big name that maybe he got an early version of it or something to start modding on it? That would be great. Maybe this mod isn't especially well done.
It's been a week. It's been a week and 2 days. I can say that this guy likely has this stuff down to a science. Seeing how he's done this so long, I'd assume that he knows where to put everything. What size case you're going to want for the specifications. You do something long enough and it just becomes boom, boom, boom. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say this is probably that type of situation.
I could run with that. I'll give it that credit, I guess. Last thing we're going to cover real quick, I want to slap this in here, is that for those people running Xbox Preview, obviously I'm not one of them, but you can get the Microsoft Groove music app on the preview already, or finally. And of course, Groove Music is great. Andy, are you still on your trial with that, or what did you?
Yeah, I thought it expired today actually, but no, the trial expires for me on the 15th, and because of money reasons, I don't think I'm going to renew. But if I did have fewer services I was subscribed to, like I'm now subscribed to Amazon Prime, Live, Xbox Live Gold. I don't think I still have a Netflix subscription. Oh man, I hope I don't. But I'm past my monthly service subscription limit, if you get what I mean.
Mm-hmm. I would love to see like just something called like Microsoft Pro, and it would just for $10 a month, $15 a month, it would give you Office 365, get you Groove, get you Xbox Live Gold.
Actually, there's the Microsoft Work and Play bundle, which has been sadly gutted and renamed multiple times.
Well, if I recall correctly, that was just an annual subscription. You could buy it, $150 or something, like the $200 for the whole thing for a year. But I think crafting it to be $10-15 a month, or even $20 a month, to get you all that stuff, especially if there was. Now I'm digging too deep, but if there was like an entertainment version of this, and I'm not saying Microsoft should get into competing with Amazon Prime Video or like Hulu or like whatever, but if they did have something like that, even 50% off all shows, we're getting in the weeds here.
Earlier today, I was actually looking around on my Xbox One and thinking, okay, Microsoft's got a music streaming service. When do they get a video streaming service? Because they have a pretty good library.
Library's not bad. Yeah, it's got some decent stuff in there. And that's pretty much the only place I rent my movies now. I would say they're slightly overpriced, but not really that much more than anywhere else, as I understand. But obviously there's plenty of ways to get them for quote-unquote free on the internet. So
Hey, they shut down KAT, so...
Yeah, there's lots of content out there, folks. Anyway, Microsoft Groove Music app for Xbox One on the preview, eventually coming to the standard, the regular, all that. And of course, the big feature in there is that you can play it in the background while gaming. Obviously, a pretty important feature. So,
one that I still can't really find the appeal of. But yeah.
Well, obviously, if you're watching your Netflix, you want to listen to music in the background. Wait, no. Yeah.
I mean, personally, I cannot make it through a single episode of The Flash without thinking, I think I should play some Metallica in the background.
All right, that's probably a good place to end. Folks, thanks for listening to another episode of the MSPoweruser Podcast. Of course, you can follow the site on Twitter at MSPoweruser. By doing that, you'll get you can see when the new episode is out, available for your consumption. But an even better way would be to just subscribe to the show. That way your favorite podcasting app can alert you directly and you can play it from there. We appreciate you listening. You can follow me on Twitter at VernonEL, and of course Andy is at FusionFan45. It has been a great episode, Andy. At least I had a good time.
Oh yeah, it's been great.
Hope our listeners enjoyed it. And that's it. Have a wonderful week, everyone.